Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Hunt from the Bullvine. Thanks for joining early. I figure we'll probably have people straggling in over a while. So I gotta turn my speakers down on my second machine. So we'll be starting at about 10 after-ish by the time we get going. But thank you for joining early.
Test, test, this is a test.
I can hear you, Daphne. Looks like you have Lloyd with you as well.
Now you can talk, say hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Lloyd. How are you doing today?
Good. Okay.
We'll probably be starting at about 5 or 10 after, just because I got people that I'm also helping connect as we go through all this. So I figure some of them aren't quite so tech savvy with this, so I'm just helping them on another computer here doing tech support. You have a few moments. Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Hunt from the Bullvine. Given that this is our first time running this and we got some people who have never connected to Zoom before, I'm doing some tech support here. So we should be getting going probably at about 10 after. So you got a few moments. I appreciate you guys getting on early, but we are just helping a few people get connected here, but we will get going here shortly. And thank you for jumping on.
Să o aplicație joc. Evo. Ovdje papir.
Predsjednik je govorio o povećanju obima testiranja. Najavio je za 10 dana početak proizvodnje leka s ličnom porodom.
Freeze drukken.
Ja. Wir haben ja ein bisschen laut gemacht da und vor der Zeit.
Ja, das ist noch gut.
From Andrew Hunt. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. Oh,
I've got as many people as I can getting helped there just now. I also have to remember that as a one-person operating role, I got to watch to approve people when they want to come in. So I'll try to keep an eye on that as we're going. And I think I've got it live streaming. Nope, I got to live stream it to Facebook here just now as well. Which I will get going as we speak. thank everyone for joining with us today. As it is our first time, we will be working through some glitches here, but I think we'll get through it. If there is any problems, be sure just to message us in the chat box or put it in the discussion or ping us on Facebook, and I will make sure I get caught up and get everything going. I'll just admit all, there we go, in there. So I appreciate it. It's something new, something we're gonna try. I thought maybe we'd figure it out, because given the circumstances that we're all facing around the world right now, I think connecting with others and maybe seeing what they saw and what they saw in proofs and just chatting would give everyone a chance to deal with the situation we're in right now. It is challenging times, but we still move on, and that is great to see that the industry has held strong and continues to lead the way in providing a good, nutritious product for the consumers. With that, we do have bull proofs this week. There has been some changes. I have some stuff prepared, but then also I want to make it more as much a discussion for everyone in regards to what bulls they saw, what bulls they have questions about, and what areas they wanted to know more about. With that, I have representatives from most of the major AI companies on the call just now as well. So if there's information we can't find, I'm certainly sure they could help us out in regards to maybe why some bulls changed positions, why some bulls came up a lot along that way. So I appreciate them joining with us today, and we have got about 45 people or so on the live one here, and then a bunch watching on Facebook. So I appreciate that. I will just kind of go through some of the highlights from around the world first, and then I'll open up discussion from there. But if while I'm talking, if there's a question you have or something you want to bring up, feel free to share it with us, and I will most definitely stop and answer questions or find someone who can answer the questions for us. So I will start the slideshow. And we'll start there. It should pop up. Yep, there we go. So we start off in the US, and it's the first proof evaluations I've put in the slide deck here, and mainly looking at the TPI numbers here to start, but if you have other indexes you want us to go through or discuss from there, feel free to do so. In the US, in the top 10 in the proven sires, Helix maintains his #1 spot. We saw this time Burley moves up from the #5 to #2. When I looked closely at that one, I saw that it's as much probably due to the fact of the index weighting changes and some of the adjustments that way as any other reasons. Also why sires like Rocket Fire and Griffin Hotline all moved up as well on the official TPI list. Okay, cool. But there are some new sires in the group. One of the first ones that we saw with an official proof is the Alta Spring Sun Noble in there from the OCD Planet Delicia family. Oh, I gotta meet some people, sorry. There we go. That works a little better. Sorry about that, guys. I'm a one-man operator here today, given that it's a Good Friday. Most of my staff's not from the dairy side. Noble Sun comes out on the list. Another new son is Achiever, who I'm gonna ping my next slide. There we go. Is Achiever from the Oman Peachy Shauna family. Yoder son, going back, the grand dam of this particular bull is Miss America, who I think just passed away, but certainly very big impact on the breed over the years, and certainly contributed greatly along those regards. When we look at the genomic young sires, and we'll go deeper into these ones in a bit later, because most of them are newer sires, and we can identify ones that you maybe want to discuss or go from there. Maybe ones like Captain, who've been out for a little while, we all are a little more familiar with, but a lot of these other ones are very much new sires and probably on limited release in that regards. But there is leading the way is Hercules, followed by a polled son, Mendo P, and then another sire from, I believe, the Seagull Bay breeding in De Novo Remedy. So quite a few sires that way. But again, since I'm not wanting to rehash or want to drive it on more discussions, we'll connect on this in a bit. And that actually also links to the discussion in regards to the Canadian list. We are very fortunate that CDN, or I guess it's not CDN anymore, it's changed names, but they do provide quite the analysis. I believe it's still Brian Van Der Mel who does the analysis of the bull proofs in here. And so Brian's done a very thorough job, which I'm sure many of the people on this call have had the opportunity to go through it. In that, you'll see that Totem does quite well on here on both the LPI and Pro Dollars lists. You'll also see new bulls with proven lists like Peak Hotline and other Hot Rod Sons that come out on here. Again, I want to make this more discussionary in a moment, so I'm just doing a quick overview of all the proofs, and then I will open up the phone lines and we can chat and discuss certain bulls in detail as we move along. But we do have some highlights in there. The top bulls: Alta, Maryland, Rubicon, Totem, Randall, Phantom, actually, Alligator, All-Star, Hotline, and Exactly. On the genomic young sire list, we have a few new sires in here that maybe are not familiar to everyone in that regards. And we can also highlight if you want to go into specific ones later, but you'll see Roslyn, Manhattan, Hart, Effort, etc. We can go through there. Oops, I got to approve a bunch of people and mute some lines. Okay, sorry. And then I also still had the type list with Monument topping the list, followed by Success, and then a bunch of sires tied at plus 17 from there. And then kind of heading out to international proofs. Yeah, thank you, Lactinet. Sorry, the name had flipped on me there for CDN's name now. Thank you. In the British proofs, Captain comes out quite high in there. I think he's 92 points, if I recall off the top of my head. Points ahead the number 2 sire, Turrigan, and then rounding out the top 3 on the bulls there is the De Novo Admiral Sun in that regards. And then you do have other daughter proven bulls that came out quite high in that regard as well. Heading to Italy, slide up, yes I do. There's a new number 1 as well. His name is Progenesis Match Point, but he's just slightly ahead, I think, of the Swiss sire Plain Null SI Magnitude. And then rounding up the top sires in Italy was West Coast Boulevard, of some sires of note amongst the Italian proofs. And then in the Swiss proofs, the Plain OSI Magnitude is the top sire on the ISET list there, and almost 100 points ahead of SSI Roland Braun. And then the former number 1 sire, which was Stanton's Etymology, rounds out the top 3 on the ISET list this time. And then the top daughter proven sire in Italy right now is Alta Top Shot, and followed by Alta or AOT Silver Helix. And I believe the top heifer in that one is the Rivington Arena. In the German proofs, On the RZG system, Captain is the top sire. That's Charles' son that's been doing quite well on a lot of the rankings. And he's followed by the Ben's son, Best Ben's. And then rounded out, I think it's Gendry, is the third sire in the German RZG list. And just before we get to the rounding out of the countries, there is the French ones, which I believe the top sire there is the De La Source Peewee sire on the 22 or 224 ISU, and followed by Perfect, and then the former number 1 Gen Good Life rounds out the top spots on the French proofs from what I was looking at. In the Spanish proofs, I think it's the Danish sire Geyser is the top bull on there. He's a hotspot son from the Trisvad Sniper Gambia cow. And then after that is the Glenhaven Saturn sire, and then the third spot is the Danhof Guardian sire. And just before we kind of do some highlights from around the world, there's the Delta Ribbon is the number 1 sire on the NBI list right now in the Netherlands. He took over the top spot from Cymax. And then the third one is, I believe, Delta Craftsman is the third sire on the Italian, or sorry, on the Dutch proofs. So with that, I'm going to kind of wanted to make this more of a discussion area as opposed to a boring presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the lines, and if there's any questions or bulls that you had any thoughts about or wanted to talk about, I thought we would open up discussion and go from there. So if you, I need to mute. There we go. Get rid of that. That'll help. There we go. So is there any bulls that you guys had any questions about, or bulls that you saw that you wanted to discuss further that I was going to open up the lines? Feel free to enter it in the chat box, or just now if you'd like. Sorry, everyone. Ken has got some other stuff here in regards to the top sires on the genomic sire list, but I thought if you had some questions or regards on bulls or lists you wanted to chat about, I would give a moment to discuss from there. Some people, I think, are just check the chat boxes here too. Let me also ask, while I got the mics open, what bulls really caught your eyes from this proof round? Which bulls have you guys been seeing that you would want to be working with or would be considering getting into? Let's see. Enter. Hello. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Unmute the lines. Oh, too many screens open. Sorry, I just fixed the mic. Sorry, I'm checking all different locations. Okay, I can go into that. Hello? Wicked feedback. I'm gonna have to mute some lines here. Why is it not letting me control that? There we go. Nope, I'm gonna admit a lot of people. All right, we're gonna have to mute it. We're getting wicked feedback. So I'll mute it and ask you to enter the other questions in the chat box. But we can go over some of the top genomic sires if you'd like. If not, feel free to enter in any questions you might have. Kind of tried to just do a quick overview over the top sires, but if you do have specific questions, go ahead. Just feel free to enter them in the chat box, because I think some of you have your mics and your speakers wide open, and every time I open up the mics on some of you, I get wicked feedback. But with that, I will go into the, there we go, nope, every time I switch away, it does that. Lovely. Into the genomic sires, which I guess I can do this way then. That will show the list in there. On those, you will see the topping of the list is the Pine Tree Heroic Son from Frazzled, who goes back to the Clear Echo breeding. Lots more invites there. Okay. Cow family. He is a 3101 TPI and a 993 net merit sire, but a sire that really caught my eye amongst these ones when I was reviewing and analyzing the proofs was the second sire here, the Windstar Mandel P. He is a de novo entity son from the Windstar program, which is the Andersons and Partners out at in Idaho. It goes back to the Seagull Bay Roxy PP cow. So have a polled son come out that extremely high was certainly one that will get a lot of influence going forward, and I think it's come a long ways. If you look, I believe when I was looking this up the other day, if you go back, not only, I think it was only 6 years ago, if you go back 6 years ago, the polled bulls were the highest polled bulls were almost 14 or 15%. I was just doing a stat on it, 15% lower, the top polled bull, and that was he was an outlier even at that time, but he was 14 or 15% behind the top non-polled sires. And nowadays you'll see that the polled bulls have pulled up right close. So that is certainly great for the advancement of the breed when you see that the polleds have caught up that closely to it. And eventually I think we'll see that a lot more top polled bulls will be amongst the top list, given that bulls are now and females are now within striking distance of the top sires. The third sire on this list is the de novo 16785 Remedy sire, who coincidentally actually does go back to the same Idaho, or back to Idaho breeding as well, same group, the Seagull Bay Miss America cow, and then ultimately her dam on Peachy Shauna in there. So a lot of Idaho influence here in the top genomic sires that have come out just now. One of the other lists I like to look at, it's one thing when you look at the list of the top genomic sires and you see a lot of bulls that maybe are just starting the collection, just coming in on collection, and certainly most likely not too many of them are publicly available for use. So one of the lists I also like to pull and look at is looking at the sires who are over that 1 year of age. And the sire that comes to the top of that list is Captain, the Genosource Captain sire. He is 3059. He's actually the number 10 sire even now, even though he's a year of age, and many other bulls have come along testing since then who are much younger and usually have the chance to advance over them. He still ranks in the top 10, and he is a 912 net merit sire, which makes him the number 3 net merit dollars sire. He is the Charl times the Sabre times in a head from the Roy Lane Shot Mindy cow family. So I don't know if he's, I'd have to check on his availability of semen, but certainly a bull that would be on the top of the list in most breeding programs as he comes more widely available. Another one on that list that should be available or is available currently is the Sandy Valley R. Conway son. He is the renegade from a granite, from a Draco, from the Larkos Comet cow. That certainly quite high as well. And then the third sire on that list, just reading the check questions. The third sire on the list is Beauma's Top Dog. And Top Dog is the roam from the Outsiders from the Delta, who goes back to the rivalry Super Nadine cow family. So certainly a group of sires that maybe as you're coming into your breeding program, you may want to consider more using. I'm sorry, I just have to approve some more people to enter, as well as I have to check the chat questions here. Oh, yeah, I will mention the stud codes, sorry, going forward. Sorry, I didn't have the stud codes on it. We do usually pull up the slides for them, depending on which preference. I use either Dairy Bulls or some of the different studs websites that have come a long ways in the last 3 or 4 years in regards to how robust and how powerful they are to search for bulls. I had this discussion with a few people just yesterday, Tuesday, I guess, is the bull file. You know, I used to rip the bull file. You know, you get the password at, I think it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever time it is on Tuesday morning when you get the password and you're ripping this Excel file that's big, nasty, and many segments. And then I'd written an auto script which would take that file and at least bring it into Excel and format it the way I like it to be formatted. But then this particular proof round, the American bull file has been ripped into pieces, into multiple files. And so my automatic system for processing and using is now shot. And I thought I would sit there all day Tuesday and have to recreate it or redo it so I don't have to do it each proof round from now. But I think I ultimately decided that the websites have become so powerful here these days that I'm not going to bother, and I'm just going to use the different websites versus trying to rip it into Excel and get it all out. I'll also admit I've been having my hands slapped for ripping the Excel file and getting the proof files out before the official lists are available. So I do stopped that habit, but I do recommend that everyone does look at the official lists. So obviously you can go to Holstein USA site, has most of the lists up right now. I know that the health trait ones are still coming to get out. I think it's later today or Monday. I think if Lindsay's on the call, she could probably ping me on when exactly those files come out. But for confusion, we've stopped posting them beforehand. And then there is always the cdn.ca for the Canadian bull proofs in there. I do appreciate that Brian, as I mentioned earlier, and from Lactanet, it goes to the in-depth analysis of all genetic evaluations. So Brian has the lists available as well as the highlights for us. The rate available at about 8 a.m. on proof morning. So it's quite thorough, quite in depth. He does a great job that way. Very in-depth analysis that he does. I think he starts it probably when he's doing proof review, so probably about a week before. So he's able to get that complete and a great service to all of us. Before I rattle on much more, I will open it up for some more questions just now. I will try unmuting unless we get too much feedback on here. Oops, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Who's it telling me it's feedback here? My talking window. I do acknowledge that we all have kids home just now with the coronavirus going on. I myself have my 3 children here, and I've become a kind of a homeschool situation where I have to spend about 4 hours a day teaching the kids their curriculum. Where am I getting that mic from? It's not showing me a mic. Okay. In that situation, but I will mute them again just because of the feedback. But I would ask then that you submit your questions through the chat group. If you have any, or if there's certain bulls you would like us to take a look at, feel free to enter a stud code or a full name in there, and we can go through it. And I do have individuals, if you had questions about particular bulls that could answer more thorough in certain bloodlines. I know that there are individuals on this call who do a great job of analyzing multiple generations through all the pedigrees. I've seen many of the cows in the cow family, seen many of the daughters from the bulls. And as much as the genomics has helped us in analyzing bulls, it's still not the be all and end all and only way of evaluating them or consideration you must consider in there. So we do appreciate some of them jumping on the call today in case there are questions that way in regards to which bulls should people be using, which bulls are you using? Maybe if that's also in here if you want to, and you can put it in the chat group. Just mention which bulls you maybe of the bulls that you saw on the list today, this week, or that. What bulls are you using in your programs? If you'd wanted to share, please go ahead. Try this again. Why did it not show me who's chatting? Normally that'll tell me who the noise is. Go to my.
Amelia, maybe what we could do, if everyone else wants to go play downstairs, you can use the.
No, it is difficult with the kids. My kids are getting some iPad time, which they don't normally get during the day because of Bullproofs being out there. And I'm just reading a couple of questions here. I answered that one. Okay, so maybe address that a little bit more. Someone asked about why do certain sires, some of these young bulls that maybe don't even seem to be fully on collection, able to be on these top genomic lists? And so it is an interesting one. It's hard to set exactly where the criteria are, but everyone uses different criteria. If you do go to the official file list from Holstein USA, I believe that the criteria they use for who makes the genomic sire list is that they have to be on active collection or identified by the studs accordingly. I believe it's in the actual PDF, but here it is. Yeah. The bulls with no daughters in the genomic proof and have an index. So that doesn't technically mean that the sire is available. And I know that can get frustrating at times because you'll see the bull on the list, you'll see that he has an NAB code, and you'll wonder, oh, well, can I get him? And sometimes it can be up to a year afterwards or even more, depending on some bulls that never actually fully publicly released, if I've watched a few of them go through over the years. It can get tricky that way. So you that's why I like to, at least to do the filter of over a year of age, because usually by a year of age, at least by contract mating stage, because the bulls by that time have probably been used for at least a month or two or almost 3 months for their own matings, the bulls will be available available for purchase or should be shortly. There are situations, there are bulls that I've seen that have never been fully released, even though they've been listed. But I've seen them not actually available for actual purchase, even though they're listed on the list. But on NABs, you don't even have to have an NAB number. I believe if you look at some of the ages of the bulls, you'll see that, born anywhere from, some of them aren't even, I think the youngest one I saw was a year, like 2002. There's the youngest, 2002. I was gonna say there's a youngest one in here that's is a 2002 test, which means he was born in February. So simple math, February, March, April, May. So he's 2-3 months old. I do know that bulls can be collected up as soon as 6 months of age, but at 3 months of age, no, they're not available. So you will see a lot of bulls on the list that way. You do see the odd outlier, as I mentioned earlier. If I look at that, you'll see Captain there. There he is. It's a 1901, so he is a little older than most of the sires on the list. The next time you get even close to his age is the other bull I mentioned to you there, which is Conway, who still ranks among the top sires, but is a little further down. But yeah, that is why you'll get that. It can get tricky because sometimes are they truly that much better than the other sires, or is it they're in a different generation going through? But that is also why I highlighted Captain earlier. It's the fact that he can stay right up there and be able to hold his ranks, even though he is that much older than the other sires in there. And another neat thing about Captain is if you look closely at him, he's a neat little dominant outlier by his sire stack. So if you are someone who believes that if the genomic test and the ranking of the bulls in the stack is in there, Captain is one that should really prove himself quite well as a sire of sons and daughters, based on some analysis we've done before on looking at not just what their indexes are, but sire contribution from dam and sire, which bulls are going to most likely throw you the next generation of next generations of sires. Captain is one that identifies that way. Sorry, so that is the one question I had there. When I look at the bull file. Oh, yeah, sorry. This actually, that can stay on this file. Sometimes you will see a requester and it won't always be a stud or a scenario that way. What that means is they were tested through Holstein USA, or tested not at the request of an actual AI unit. So when you look at the requester, sometimes you will see other names there, other scenarios there. That is purely just because someone has tested them privately versus testing them through an AI unit. I think if I go back to, I gotta move this stuff out of my way so I can see. There we go. If you go back to certain files, so I got all these windows open. If you go to certain ones, I think you'll see more likely on the female list. They don't put requester on the female list. I was gonna say you'll see what the other listings normally are, but again, one of the key filters on why I pull down, and I appreciate that Holstein USA does make the Excel file, at least of the top bulls or top females and males are available. You'll see some that almost a year of age different. So if you look at these top females, this Bomez breeding cow is almost a year younger, or sorry, a year older than the heifer at the top of the list. Actually, the first two heifers are just young heifers at the top of the list that got tested very quickly. So as much as you'll see about a 30-point difference with that whole age difference, if you kind of have developed an index we use internally right now, which is a weighted by age index on some of their numbers, because then it kind of equalizes out the ones that are very young getting in there versus the ones that are much older. And identifying which ones to work with or could be worked with or will be the influentials going forward, you do have to remember their age group or their contemporaries. And so that is one of the questions that way. So I always I think it's key that these columns are in the documents these days in there. Sorry, I'm just going through some of the questions here. I want to see that I get it all covered. I've got a lot of ones being sent to me as private message here. Okay. Here, did that one. That one. I believe it's Monday. Sorry. Okay, so this one is looking at when do the wellness trait lists come out, and if Lindsay, or let me just check the other participants are. I believe the wellness traits, I think, are normally Friday, but I think since this round falls on Good Friday, they will be on Monday when you'll probably see these lists, but I have not had an official confirmation of that. Normally I do see them on Friday, but I do think this round, given that it did fall on Easter weekend, I think we're going to be a little later getting your wellness traits and your wellness indexes out. You can pull them through other sources. So as I said, I use a few different of the companies' websites that let you not only look at their sires, but you can actually pull lists any which way you would like, and you can get them from there. Sorry, I'm just going to go through the questions again here. Sorry, each time I flip away, it doesn't scroll me down to the bottom of mine. Oh, base change. Okay. Sorry. So on this question, and I know we had a lot of discussion about it before. I think if I actually can call it up here, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the milk house, but base change and rankings and explaining it that way. I think if I search this group, if I search by flatness, I will find the discussion on here about the base change and not wanting it to be held to a different time. But I think the key point in that one, I think everyone needs to remember, is that base changes, everyone's comparable, and even on lists, it's all relative. So yes, we have a rollback. You could argue that it means that for a certain number of years, since it's only done once every 5 years in the US, bulls might be overrated because it hasn't been adjusted for genetic advancement. It's still all relative, so all the bulls are relative. I guess the main thing that changes for most is, if you say, oh, I like to use a bull that is over 3.7 for type, and then the base change comes. Or I like to use a bull that's over 1,000 pounds of milk, and then the base change comes. So then it's simply enough if you go and look at, maybe you just adjust your thresholds that you've been using in that time. Usually, you'd have to adjust every time. In there, most people have been at this long enough that their thresholds they use for which bulls have already kind of accommodated for the amount in between. I think that's one reason that when you're shortening your list, thresholds are a little hard to use versus weighted indexes, because thresholds mean when they're overrated or that, there'll be a lot of bulls that cross that threshold. But then when you get the evaluations come through and then the base change happens, next thing you have a very small limited list. So that's where the weighted average is. If you put a weighting on each one versus a threshold on each one, you'll get much better. So one of the things, and I will go through it here, is I have a few people here from the different AI companies that joined us, and I know they've kind of got a bit of a spiel or some things around which bulls they've been, or the highlights from their proof round. So I maybe will start, if you don't mind. I think I got Dan Carroll here. If Dan doesn't mind. Oh, let me unmute Dan. We'll start with Dan. Dan, are you there? There you go, Dan.
Yep, I'm here, Andrew.
Oh, sorry. So I'll start with Dan, but I've got a few others to follow up. But if you just want to kind of give us a highlight on kind of what happened, what worked, or what great successes you saw this round for ST, I would appreciate that.
So a couple things. Obviously, the growth of the Sons of Helix at ST this time, with Twitch and Paco becoming largely some bulls that are in a position now to make volumes of semen and fit so many markets around the world, is very, very valuable to us. We continue with, like anything else, you continue growing into more and more proven bulls. Obviously, Rubicon headlines us and Delta headlines us, but now Noble and many of Noble's sons become solid and sustainable for multiple places around the world. So like any other entity, just the overall growth, and like anybody else has, bulls getting older helps, because that also helps production capabilities on certain bulls. So that would be a quick recap from that, Andrew, if there's any comments or questions that I can field or take. So
I will just give a moment there if anyone has any questions for Dan about some of the ST bulls in that regard. Otherwise, I'm just pinging who's up next here just now. Okay, then next I will pass it over. I got to mute a mic. Sorry, me and the tech are doing 100% here today. So I will mute the, oh, I muted it. I will find, why aren't they alphabetical? Jeez, it's not making my life easier. Next up, why am I not seeing? I gotta mute mics first here, sorry. There we go. I'll unmute. Just test there. Brian, are you able to chat there? Let's just see if I oh, there we go. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, and we got video with Brian as well, so thanks.
So yeah, thanks, Andrew, for the opportunity to be part of this today. CMAX was extremely happy overall with this evaluation. Obviously, 3 times a year, there's surprises, both good and bad, with certain bulls. In my role in product development, we certainly like to see the end result of great proven bulls, and I think this round showed us that, not just in Canada, but around the world. We are a global exporting company, sell to over 80 countries. And we did see some great success of our lineup in certain countries. Italy, for example, we had a couple of really high proven bulls that did very well, Guarantee and Matters, ranking very well on the PFT in Italy. In the UK, we had number 1 bulls in Attico and Applicable, a pair of really well-bred bulls that sire a real pleasing kind of animal with beautiful mammary systems, and the kind that are going to get better with age. And in Canada, of course, we had a very nice run with proven bulls. And one thing I'd like to point out, we've at CMAX worked with Stanton Farms for many years. We have a long-standing history relationship with them, and they have a McCutcheon cow named Agree that we were fortunate enough to get a lot of sons of a few years back, and obviously from a great cow family. that, you know, through the Wabash Way family down through Ohio, the Emily Ann cow, back in the pedigree here of this Agree cow, but an incredible pedigree and unprecedented, I think, with 6 proven sons in the top 64 bulls in Canada. Of course, actually an alligator being in the top 10, and bulls with the kind of profile that our customers demand. Solid production, good components, real pleasing type profiles. And so just something that I think is quite unprecedented, and I'm not sure if there's been many cows that have produced 6 maternal brothers that have ranked that high from a proven standpoint in any country. So congratulations to Stanton's on that for sure. But overall, Andrew, a nice run. Progenesis continues. Our internal product development program continues to churn out a lot of high bulls. And we do have quite a few high-ranking genomic bulls as well that are both from Progenesis and our external programs. We have released a couple of really nice young genomic bulls in this month in Kleinux Sarsaparilla and Brabandale Alley-Oop, pair of bulls that offer different types of things for our customers, but Sarsaparilla was a major sire of sons for us, and is a bull that just supplies so many things in one package. And in addition to that is an Immunity Plus sire as well, which is really important for many of our salespeople and ultimately the end user as well. So a bull that's has a great future for us, and we think his influence is going to be great from a genetic standpoint and from a herd improvement standpoint as well. The other bull, Alley-Oop, a high type bull, a crushable son, a bull that has that high type profile, a beautiful individual in his own right, and combines that with a really nice production profile as well to go with that high type. He was released this month as well. We also did release a red bull, a red bull that's and polled from Vogue, a very interesting bull called Red Eye, a bull that's going to be very popular based on his profile. And then a homozygous polled bull as well that combines a lovely profile with that homozygous gene. So overall, a really nice run, and some bulls have solidified themselves. We're happy with Progenesis positive, and of course IMAX solidifying himself as a future great sire of sons as well. So really good day from CMEX's standpoint, and I certainly would welcome any questions on this or privately.
And I'll give a moment if you guys want to ask Brian some questions. You can put them in the chat group or go ahead, but thank you, Brian, for sharing. Yes, you know, it is the modern era of breeding, and key partner herds make a big difference in the advancement, and you guys have a great relationship with Stanton's that way. Okay, now I'm just reading some things here. I delete some lines again. Our ABS, we do just, they had a person on, but I think they had to jump off. That's what I'm just reading messages. I do know from other things that certainly they're excited in regards into the new list, especially with the bulls I mentioned earlier on. I think the list is actually right over here. If you do the genomic young bulls, jump to the PDF. It certainly was a very good round for ABS that way, and then select. I think I didn't see him connect on, so I'm just going through. In regards, if I missed you or I don't see you in the list, the individuals who are on, please just ping me. Sorry, I'm trying to operate on a couple different computers and an iPhone at once, and as a not as tech savvy young man as I once was, is making it a little trickier. So please ping in there in that regards, but we will keep rolling because we are at that hour that I said that I wanted to keep this at. Questions that people had, but I also wanted to keep it just kind of short and to an hour. So I will open up questions again. Any questions anyone might have, I will give a last opportunity that way. I'll try once last time opening up the lines, though most times when I have done this, I have had challenges. I'll try one last time just to see. I'll open up the lines for a few moments. But I'm just going through the chat groups. I think I got most of those questions. I tried to cover that. I think I covered that. Okay, so I think I got most of them. And then we're at that hour that I wanted to keep it to. So I first want to thank everyone for attending today. It's something to try to do, try to give people a chance to chat, kind of go over some things, do things a little differently as technology is advanced and circumstances around the world change. I appreciate everyone joining with us. I appreciate Brian and Dan for joining us as well there, sharing your insight and regards. If there's any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Bullvine. We'll do the best we can to either answer your question or facilitate someone who can answer that, either from the genetic evaluation side or the AI industry side. We will most definitely get you an answer as quick as we can, and appreciate it and appreciate everyone's passion. Want everyone to stay safe. Have a great day, and thanks for joining us. Bye, everyone.